Hello and welcome back to those of you who were here just a bit ago with Chris, and to those of you who have just shown up for this next portion of today's silent retreat. Layla, I just would like to be sure, is there anything you'd like to share before I begin?
No, the floor is all yours.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So again, welcome. Before we move forward, I'd actually like to just pause. And the reason I'd like to pause is because I've been observing the chat as we've had this space, and I see that there's a lot of loss that's being mentioned. People have lost loved ones for various reasons, and I'd love to open the floor to invite in naming of these beloved beings who have been lost. And so if it feels comfortable for you, perhaps closing down the eyes, drawing your attention inward, and allowing to come to mind the face of some being who's with you today. Perhaps the loss of this being has been recently. I see that there's been a loss as recently as yesterday. Perhaps it's been a number of months, weeks, years, but who is with you? Whose heart are you holding with you? And can you allow their face to come to mind and the imprint that they've made on your heart? Can you let that blossom into its fullness just for a moment in honor of this one and in honor of your relationship with this one? And if you'd like, placing their name in the chat for all of us to see and honor along with you. Alan, Hashim, Sean, and Julie, Hershey, Kay, Anna, Jeff, Will, Martin, Faye, you are with us. Viska, you are with us. Steve, you are with us. Fawn, Virginia, Mustafa, Alice, Rosemary, Buster, you are all with us. Tim, you are with us. Kate's mom and dad, you're with us. Bonnie, we see you, we honor you. Ada and Glenn, we honor you. Led. Hiroe's father, Boyd, Bill's mom, Diho, Esteve, Ruth, Zvi, Shalomit. I beg your forgiveness for pronouncing your name incorrectly, but your heart is with us. Jeffrey, you are with us. Robert is with us. Yes, Felice, we are not alone. We are not alone. Petra is with us. Deborah, Maggie, Virginia, Pete, Kenta, Jackie, Joyce, Desmond, Maggie, Lane. Noticing what it is within you to recognize the connection we have in loss, right? Many, many ways of connecting, but this one is powerful. What does it feel like within you to see that you are not alone? To know this viscerally. Chloe, Esbieta, Kathy, Jazz, Fikret, Susan's dad, Sally and Kenji, Paola, Pia, Maria Pia, Joanne. If it supports you, hand on the heart, someplace on your body that glows with an acknowledgement of the love in this room, both seen and unseen. Both seen and unseen. Gustavo, Joanne, Dolonat, Godba, Carol, Harold, And if it feels right in the silence of your own space behind your closed mic, feel free to speak a word or two to those you miss, those who you may anticipate missing soon, if they're mired in illness or with life-limiting illness. Allowing it all in, knowing that grief and love are interconnected. There is no separation between the two. Without love, there is not grief. Without grief, there was not love. Marcia's mom, Sunny, Felix, Beth with an exclamation mark, Beth, Carol, Jean-Francois, Charles, Juliazda, Catherine, Godiva, Godiva the horse, David's crazy cousin Dave, Kate's dear sweet Max, Jason, and Jody. Jody, Shakira, Heather Stock, Julian. Love and loss, intertwined. All are welcome. All are welcome. River, Dean, Demarius, Dixie, Adam. Kath. And so if you have not already, perhaps taking a look around the room, and if you're able to scroll through the screens, the many screens, looking amongst the faces of those who are here. These are the faces that you see, and then the faces that you don't see, the ones that have been mentioned. Knowing that among all that we share, love and loss is an important part of that. And so we honor that. We honor that. Yeah. So always making space for the truth in the room, even if it's a deviation from the plan. And so we've had 9 minutes to simply acknowledge and to dwell in the love that we hold, both spoken and unspoken. There's courage in loving, right? There's courage in loving because we know that at some point that love may have to shift and we may have to find a new way to love. And so here, many of us sit in loving in new ways. We do this together. And so thank you. Thanks to each and every one of you for your presence, for your commitment to this path of cultivating self-compassion in your life. Thank you for taking the time out of your day, making the space to let this be important, because it is not just for your own well-being, but for the well-being of those in your life, the people whom you encounter. Your sisters, your brothers, your coworkers, your children, your husbands, wives, partners, pets. This is important. What you do matters. That you cultivate this matters. Get that. Get that. And it's all the more important because right now, this time in our world, things are hard. Things are uniquely hard, I might say. We are entering into the 3rd year of a pandemic, one that none of us were ready for. Many of us are simply doing what we can to find our way. And the blows for some of us keep coming. Just when we think we have found our way forward, just when we think that things are getting a little easier, we learn something new. There's a new variant, there's a new breakout, a rise and struggle that we thought we might have had under control. And that's just COVID. That doesn't even count just our regular lives, just our regular losses. And so it's easy, and I wonder if you can relate with me, to kind of lose our groove, to kind of lose our groove, right? So where I live, it's cold. I noticed in the chat that there were lots and lots of people who were also experiencing extreme cold in their parts of the world. And in order to survive in this neck of the woods, where we're kind of in a rural mountainous environment, it's -5 degrees outside, it's important to have a really healthy respect of fire. And it's essential. There's really no way to survive without it. And I didn't really know how to make a fire when I moved here 6 months ago. Do you all know how to make a fire? Do you guys? Okay, I didn't. I didn't. So I had to learn, and I'm learning. I might actually say I'm learning. And my husband, Aaron, he knows fire and he knows this land. So he's been very earnestly trying to teach me. And while I resist on the surface, I'm actually listening and I'm learning how to build a fire. And there's really an art. There's an art to it, a necessary art to it. And once that baby's built, you have to keep returning to it over and over again to keep it going, to keep it warm and smoldering and strong. And this is how we nourish our family. This is how we keep us safe and well. And so the same goes for this human experience of ours. We need that inner fire to help us survive and thrive, especially at times like now. When stress is high, when worry is high, when instability is high, oftentimes our self-compassion practice falls to the wayside too. So that makes it even more difficult, makes our mindful awareness all the more important for reinviting our self-compassionate experience with ourselves. So harsh conditions can make this all the more difficult. And so if we've allowed our practice to drift a little bit, those things that sustain us, if we've allowed them to fall away, first of all, understandable, because a lot of us are working in survival in a sense, in a very real sense. But when that happens, again, we lose touch with that innate life-giving inner fire that has a real power to lift us up. And so I wonder if in this moment you can even consider, what does your inner fire feel like? What does it feel like? When you care about something, when you're applying yourself to something, when you're taking wise action in the world for yourself or for someone else, what does that feel like? And that's what I'd like to really get us in touch with today, the importance of that somatic quality, because it fuels us through our lives. And it's so easy to let go of. And yet we also need to temper this fire with restorative quality and with a restorative quality of rest and care. And that's where our tender self-compassion can really come in and help us, support us along the way. And so we learn to move fluidly between all of it. It's really an art form, and it requires this consistent, mindful awareness. Where am I and what do I need in this moment? So self-compassion supports us along the way, and it keeps us from burning out. It's important. And so in the interest of preparing us for what else may be asked of us in this coming year, I'd really like to help us reacquaint ourselves with our innate courage, our innate vitality, which can kind of feel like fire sometimes. And I'd also like to help us explore specific ways, and they'll be familiar, that self-compassion can help us tend to this inner fire, to keep it strong as we're moving through our lives. Okay? So if you would like to practice along, I celebrate that, I respect that, and I encourage you to make yourselves as comfortable as you can for about the next 20 minutes or so. And so really checking in with your body. In this moment, what is it that you most need? What would be supportive of this body right here and now? If it's cold in your space, you might want a blanket or a cozy shawl, extra pair of socks. If you have a beloved pet nearby, you might want to invite them in to this experience with you, hang out on your lap. Inviting in all the support that you need or want. And then when you're ready, if it feels supportive to you, allowing the eyes to close down. And in this way, we begin to perceive our inner experience, to see through the eyes of the mind. And then creating a cradle with your breath. Chris so beautifully walked us through that. And so in this moment, looking for 4 deep, full, life-giving breaths, inhaling completely and allowing the lungs to fill to their fullest, and then exhaling it out, all out, knowing that there's always more oxygen to breathe in. So on your own, 4 deep breaths. And as you may have already today, offering yourself a warm inner welcome in your own unique way. Maybe it's an inner smile, maybe it's some words. Oh, hon, I'm so glad to see you, or I haven't seen you in a while. So glad you're here. And then allowing whatever's here to arise. Maybe there is a quality of gladness. Maybe there's a quality of tenderness. But maybe also in the silence and in the kindness of your own warm attitude, there's some sadness that you might bump into. And some rawness, a little overwhelm, some defendedness, maybe a little numbness. It's all welcome. Just making room for all of those pieces and parts. Nothing left out. You may wish to tune into the reliable pull of gravity on your body. Perhaps drawing your awareness to where your body makes connection with the seat under you, soles of your feet on the ground. Letting this gravity anchor you, especially if you're one of the people who's dealing with really recent loss. It is courageous simply to be here, especially as you sit in grief, if that's what you're holding today. Letting gravity be the reliable source, the cradle in which you sit back. It is here for you. There's nothing to do, nothing to fix. And for a moment, simply rest. Simply rest. Knowing that as our life hands us obstacles and challenges, it's easy to get lost. And so in a sense, we're endlessly forgetting our courage and also remembering ourselves back to it again. Remembering and forgetting, remembering and forgetting, losing and rediscovering our confidence, our capacity. And this happens, and this is part of being human. So I invite you to call to mind a time in your life when you took some courageous, wise action in the face of something that perhaps scared you, but it needed to be done. It needed to be done, whether on behalf of yourself or someone else. Maybe it was a community, it was a cause, a pet. Let it be simple and pure of heart. This is something you cared about enough to take a stand for, to get uncomfortable for. Maybe it was turning toward a health scare or setting a boundary with someone. Asking forgiveness for a cause you harmed, or excuse me, a harm you've caused. Maybe you stood up for someone who was vulnerable, or you out loud, you named a system of oppression, knowing that you're a part of that system. And maybe, just maybe, it was getting out of bed. It was getting out of bed on a particular hard day. What was it for you? And so calling that situation to mind, letting it get really clear if you can, who was there, what happened, what you did, what action you took, whether small or large. The beginnings of some sensation in your body. What is it? What does it feel like somatically to stand in your courage, to be fueled by your own inner fire, this fire that never dies? How does that feel in your body? You might even consider within yourself a micro movement. What is it to have a strong spine? Can you, in this moment, in your body, generate a strong spine? Not stiff, not unyielding, but just strong. Perhaps a gentle lift of the chin might help you move toward that, the shining of the heart forward. Courage. Fire. This is yours. What does it feel like in your chest to stand in courage? Your throat. Your shoulders, those large muscles, your forearms, your hands. Is there a vibrance that you can touch in with? What about the fronts of your legs? Strong, strong legs. The backs of your legs, your calves. Your feet, which anchor you solidly to the ground when you're standing in courage. And again, that heart space, the beginning and the end, the origin and the reason for standing in courage. How does that feel somatically? Memorize this. This is the courage that runs wild within each of us in this room. And so soaking in it, basking in it, knowing it intimately. And if courage feels elusive to you right now, that is so okay. Can you trust that courage is here even if you can't feel it in the moment? Capacity is right here. Noticing if standing in this inner fire unthaws something that may be frozen or stuck within you. And just resting in this, letting it energize you, letting it remind you of your agency. Letting it prepare you and strengthen you, especially on the precipice of this new year, to take committed action in the world on your behalf, on others' behalves. When acting in the world, we have to remember again and again and again, though, to make our way back to rest, to care. This is not just a kindness to ourselves, but it's infinitely practical, infinitely necessary. And so now, with one especially full, deep breath, perhaps releasing any image of courage or vitality, just releasing the active aspect of what you're feeling. And exhaling back into this present space where we'll begin to turn inward toward tenderness, toward tenderness. Resting now in a softened belly, a softened front. Letting breath breathe you back into a space of ease. You may even gently curl the curl the chin inward toward the chest. What does it feel to curl into yourself, into a warm little space, a space of kindness you create for yourself? adding a bit of soothing touch, if you'd like, to this experience. If soothing touch is in your practice, can you let it feel new in this moment? Perhaps trying a new gesture. Maybe you can place a hand on the forehead, a hand on the back of the neck, and make it even just rest here. And if this is new to you and you've never tried this, can you open with some curiosity to our response to our own loving touch? What would it be to place one hand or both hands on your cheeks? Oh, and just rest in that. Oh, you may find your breath to begin to slow down naturally. The softness of your belly, softness of your chest. And rest. Noticing what happens inside when you offer yourself and receive both. This sort of touch. You may like to take a hand or both hands and place them on the solar plexus or the belly. Noticing what may shift for you there. If there is ease, allow yourself to enjoy it. If there's not, shift your hands to some place that calls for your loving awareness. Letting the breath hold you here, create that cradle. You may like to try giving yourself a hug, wrapping your hands around your shoulders if that feels supportive for you. Hugging yourself in the same way you would hug a beloved dear friend. Somebody in the chat earlier mentioned a little rocking. Maybe rocking wants to play a part in this experience of loving, connected presence with yourself. And finally, just deciding which of the various hand gestures we've played with you might like to rest in. What nourishes you most in this moment? And go there. And I wonder if there are some words that may support you in this moment. And if so, can you offer them to yourself? Perhaps it's something like, may I believe in myself. May I honor my limits. May I trust my own strength. Or may I love myself just as I am. What is it for you? This is what it feels like to tend your inner fire with self-compassion. And we return here often, over and over. Knowing that in this place, we can hold whatever pain is here to bear, just as we would support a dear one who's having a hard time. Here we can rest and we can restore for whatever may come next. And as happens in this life, challenge awaits us. Challenges perhaps to our health and to our beliefs, our personal circumstances, our values, even our safety. And so again, we are called to invoke that inner fire that we talked about before, that empowering place, which gives us strength to persevere for ourselves, for others. And so for one moment more, deep breath on the exhale, perhaps releasing for a moment that quality of tenderness and returning to the strong spine. This strong spine of yours, that which carries you through the world when things get a little tough or a lot tough. Slight uplift of the chin if that supports you, and remembering, leading with the heart, leading with the heart. This is courage. This is that wildfire within. This is a resource and it is here within you always. So as you move into the new year and all that it brings, may this imprint, this peace that you're experiencing right now, this inner fire, may it be your constant companion and guide along the way. And remembering too, over and over again, to call on your tender self-compassion to cradle and nourish you, help stoke that inner fire when it dims. Remembering who you are and all that you are capable of in a world that needs, invites, begs for your wise, active participation. Joy Harjo, a Native American poet, our poet laureate here in the US, she writes, for any spark to make a song, and feel your spark, feel it now, for any spark to make a song, it must be transformed by pressure. There must be unspeakable need, muscle of belief, and wild, unknowable elements. That muscle of belief is within you. It's right here. So please remember who you are. This fire of yours matters. You matter. You matter. And so for another minute or so, just allowing yourself to rest in whatever way feels most supportive to you right here and now. Letting the breath be the common thread amongst it all. And allowing to arise a word or two, an idea, a thought, something you want to remember about what arose for you during this practice. And can you let it imprint itself on you? Let it be important. Let it guide you. Taking your time, no rush. When you are ready, you may wish to open your eyes, honor your body with a stretch or sip of your tea. And if there's a note or two you might like to make in your journal or piece of paper, feel free to do that, especially if there are any strong messages that you'd like to carry forward into the new year. Reinforcing them by repeating them. And if you'd like to share in the chat anything that came up for you, feel free to do that. It's so good to hear everyone's wisdom. It's just so much in this room, experience. Simply breathing and resting, nothing more to do other than being here for right now. If you'd like, reading the chat for yourself, noticing any resonance that may be present. And I wonder, Chris, I wish I'd written it down, but I would love, if I could, to hear once again the poem that you offered us at the end of your session a moment ago. Would you be willing to read that to us once again in closing this out? It's just so apropos.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now I need to find it because I put it in the chat.
Okay. Let's see. Maybe I can find it. I thought I wrote it down, the link to it, but
Here we go.
oh, you got it. Good.
Thank you for asking.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we are the children of this beautiful planet.
Mm.
We have come forth from it. We are the functioning eyes and ears and minds of this earth. Exactly as our own eyes and ears and minds are of our bodies. Our bodies are one with this earth. This earth, which is a wonderful oasis in the desert of infinite space. And the mathematics of that infinite space come to flower and fruit in this beautiful oasis through ourselves. So what I so appreciated, Aimee, about your sharing, particularly as, first I was offering kind of the yin side, and then you gave the yang side, the energy to step into this world after we've nourished ourselves. But that in order to tap this energy in a way that is genuinely serving the world, we also need to know that everything we think, do, and feel, and every act that we do is absolutely impacts everything else. And so with that awareness, we can be a blessing to this world.
Thank you, Chris, as you are to us. As you are to us. Thank you. Thank you so much. And thanks to each and every one of you for your practice, for your courage to go outwards, but also your courage to go inwards, because it takes courage to do both. And it matters. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. And thank you to Chris and to Layla and to Ben and to the Center for Mindful Self-Compassion. And I believe in another 9 minutes or so, Don McDonald will offer yet more. It will be our third session. So please take care of yourselves, take care of your bodies, and we'll see you back here in about 9 minutes. Thanks to everyone.